In the picturesque suburb of Maple Grove, nestled on the outskirts of Chicago, life seemed perfect. Manicured lawns, white picket fences, and friendly neighbors created an idyllic atmosphere that many dreamed of calling home. But beneath this facade of suburban bliss, a dark secret was brewing. One that would ultimately shatter the community's sense of security and leave its residents questioning how well they truly knew their neighbors. At the center of this tragic tale was Evelyn Thornton, a 42-year-old housewife known for her warm smile and involvement in various community activities. Evelyn lived at 1542 Sycamore Lane with her husband, Richard Thornton, 47-year-old investment banker, and their two children, 17-year-old Melissa and 14-year-old Tyler. To the outside world, the Thorntons epitomized the perfect American family. Evelyn was a staple at the local country club, where she organized charity events, participated in weekly tennis matches. Her homemade apple pies were legendary at neighborhood potlucks, and she never missed a PTA meeting at Maple Grove High School. Richard, though often away on business trips, was respected in the community for his financial acumen and generous donations to local causes. Just 2 houses down, at 1538 Sycamore Lane, lived the Cartwrights. Daniel and Sarah Cartwright, both in their late 40s, and their 19-year-old son, Jason. The Cartwrights had moved to Maple Grove 3 years ago when Daniel, a software engineer, landed a lucrative job at a nearby tech startup. Sarah worked part-time as a yoga instructor at the local gym, while Jason had just completed his freshman year at the University of Illinois. Jason Cartwright was the quintessential all-American boy, handsome, athletic, and charismatic. He had been the star quarterback of his high school football team and was now pursuing a degree in computer science. His boyish charm and good looks made him popular among his peers, and many of the neighborhood mothers doted on him, seeing him as the ideal son. Little did anyone suspect that beneath the surface of these two seemingly perfect families, a dangerous passion was simmering, one that would ultimately lead to a brutal murder that would shock the community to its core. The case of Evelyn and Jason's illicit affair began innocently enough. It was a sweltering July afternoon when Evelyn, struggling with bags of groceries, encountered Jason outside her home. The young man, home for the summer, rushed to help her, his muscular arms easily managing the weight that had given Evelyn trouble. As their hands brushed during the exchange, Evelyn felt a jolt of electricity she hadn't experienced in years. Over the next few weeks, their encounters became more frequent. Jason would often offer to mow the Thorntons' lawn or help with other household chores, tasks that Richard was too busy to handle. Evelyn found herself looking forward to these moments, relishing the attention from the young, attractive neighbor. Their conversations, at first casual and neighborly, gradually became more personal. Evelyn confided in Jason about her feelings of loneliness and the growing distance between her and Richard. Jason, in turn, shared his anxieties about college and his future. The age gap between them seemed to dissolve as they found solace in each other's company. The turning point came on a warm August evening. Richard was away on a business trip and the children were at summer camp. Evelyn invited Jason over for a glass of wine, ostensibly to thank him for his help around the house. One glass led to another, and as the sun set over Maple Grove, inhibitions faded. That night, their relationship crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. What followed was a whirlwind of secret meetings and stolen moments. Evelyn felt alive in a way she hadn't in years, intoxicated by the passion and attention Jason lavished upon her. For Jason, the affair was a heady mix of excitement and ego boost, being desired by an older, experienced woman. However, as summer waned and autumn approached, the reality of their situation began to set in. Jason was due to return to college, and Evelyn was torn between her newfound passion and her duty to her family. The strain of maintaining their secret became increasingly difficult. Unbeknownst to the lovers, their clandestine affair had not gone entirely unnoticed. Sarah Cartwright had begun to suspect something was amiss with her son's behavior. His sudden interest in household chores and frequent disappearances raised her maternal suspicions. Meanwhile, Melissa Thornton had noticed changes in her mother, secret phone calls, a new perfume, and a distracted demeanor that was out of character for the usually attentive Evelyn. As September arrived and Jason prepared to return to college, the tension between him and Evelyn reached a breaking point. Evelyn, consumed by guilt and fear of discovery, suggested they end the affair. Jason, however, had become obsessed with their relationship and refused to let go. Their final confrontation occurred on the night of September 15th, a date that would be forever etched in the memory of Maple Grove's residents. Richard was once again away on business, and the Thornton children were at a school event. Jason, distraught at the thought of losing Evelyn, snuck into the Thornton home for one last attempt to change her mind. What transpired in the Thornton household that night would only be pieced together later through forensic evidence and conjecture. Neighbors reported hearing raised voices and a loud crash around 9:30 p.m. At 11:45 p.m., a frantic 911 call came from the Thornton resident. When police arrived at 1542 Sycamore Lane, they were met with a scene of horror. Evelyn Thornton lay dead in the kitchen, her body bearing multiple stab wounds. The once immaculate room was a chaos of overturned furniture and blood-spattered surfaces. Kitchen knife, later identified as the murder weapon, was found in the sink. The community of Maple Grove awoke the next morning to the shocking news of Evelyn's murder. As police cordoned off the Thornton home and crime scene investigators combed through the evidence, neighbors gathered in stunned clusters, struggling to comprehend how such violence could erupt in their peaceful suburb. Detective Sarah Martinez, a veteran of the Chicago Police Department's homicide unit, was assigned to lead the investigation. As she surveyed the crime scene, Martinez knew this case would be far from straightforward. The brutality of the attack suggested a crime of passion, but with no signs of forced entry, it was clear Evelyn had known her killer. The initial suspect was, naturally, Richard Thornton. However, his alibi quickly checked out. He had been in a late-night meeting with clients in New York City at the time of the murder, a fact corroborated by multiple witnesses and hotel security footage. As Detective Martinez delved deeper into Evelyn's life, inconsistencies began to emerge in the picture-perfect image the community had of her. Interviews with close friends revealed that Evelyn had seemed distracted and secretive in recent months. Her cell phone records showed numerous calls and texts to an unregistered prepaid phone. The investigation took a turn when Melissa Thornton, still reeling from the loss of her mother, came forward with crucial information. She told Detective Martinez about the changes she had noticed in her mother's behavior and her suspicions about a possible affair. This new lead led the investigators to widen their net, and soon, Jason Cartwright's name emerged as a person of interest. When questioned, Jason initially denied any involvement beyond being a helpful neighbor. However, as the evidence mounted, including DNA found at the crime scene and incriminating text messages recovered from the prepaid phone, Jason's facade began to crumble. Under intense interrogation, Jason finally confessed to the affair and to being present at the Thornton house on the night of the murder. He claimed that he had gone there to talk to Evelyn about continuing their relationship, but things had spiraled out of control. According to Jason, Evelyn had threatened to expose their affair to his parents and the community if he didn't leave her alone. In a fit of rage and panic, he had grabbed a kitchen knife and attacked her. The arrest of Jason Cartwright sent shockwaves through Maple Grove. The community struggled to reconcile the image of the charming, all-American boy with the violent murderer he had become. The Cartwrights, devastated by their son's actions, became virtual recluses, unable to face their neighbors. As the case moved to trial, more details of the affair came to light, painting a picture of a relationship that had spiraled dangerously out of control. Text messages and emails revealed the intensity of Jason's obsession with Evelyn and her growing fear as she tried to extricate herself from the affair. The trial was a media sensation, drawing national attention to the quiet suburb of Maple Grove. Reporters descended on the community, digging into every aspect of Evelyn and Jason's lives. The sordid details of their affair were splashed across newspapers and dissected on true crime television shows. In the courtroom, the prosecution painted Jason as a callous manipulator who had seduced an older woman and then brutally murdered her when she tried to end their relationship. The defense, on the other hand, portrayed Jason as a troubled young man who had been led astray by an older, more experienced woman, and had acted in a moment of passion and confusion. After a grueling 3-week trial, the jury found Jason Cartwright guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. A verdict that brought a collective sigh of relief to the residents of Maple Grove, but did little to heal the deep wounds left by the tragedy. In the aftermath of the trial, the community of Maple Grove was left to grapple with the consequences of the secrets and lies that had festered beneath its pristine surface. The Thornton children, Melissa and Tyler, struggled to come to terms with the loss of their mother and the tarnishing of her memory. Richard Thornton, his world shattered, eventually sold the family home and moved away, unable to bear the constant reminders of his wife's betrayal and tragic end. The Cartwrights, too, left Maple Grove, moving across the country to escape the notoriety that now surrounded their family name. Sarah Cartwright, in particular, was haunted by guilt, constantly questioning if she could have done something to prevent the tragedy, if she had acted on her early suspicions about Jason's behavior. As months turned into years, the residents of Maple Grove slowly began to heal. The case of Evelyn Thornton and Jason Cartwright became a cautionary tale, a reminder that even in the most seemingly perfect communities, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface. The tragedy prompted soul-searching within the community. Neighborhood watch programs were strengthened and initiatives were launched to promote open communication and support for families in crisis. The local high school implemented programs to discuss healthy relationships and the dangers of obsession and violence. Yet, despite these efforts, a shadow lingered over Maple Grove. The manicured lawns and white picket fences remained, but the sense of safety and innocence that once defined the community had been irrevocably altered. Residents found themselves more wary of their neighbors, more protective of their children, and more aware of the potential for darkness in even the most unexpected places. The case of Evelyn Thornton and Jason Cartwright served as a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that the line between passion and obsession, love and violence, can be terrifyingly thin. It was a tragedy that would be remembered for years to come, not just in Maple Grove, but in suburbs across America. Chilling testament to the secrets that can hide behind closed doors and the devastating consequences, and they finally come to light. As life in Maple Grove slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy, community was forever changed. The event served as a grim reminder that no place, no matter how idyllic it may seem, is immune to the darker aspects of human nature. The tale of the housewife and the neighbor's son became a part of local lore, whispered about at dinner parties and used as a warning to teenagers about the dangers of forbidden relationships. In the years that followed, true crime enthusiasts and amateur sleuths would continue to dissect every aspect of the case, debating the motivations and actions of both Evelyn and Jason. Books were written, documentaries were made, all attempting to understand how a suburban affair could end in such tragedy. For those directly involved, the aftermath of the murder and trial was a continuous struggle. Melissa and Tyler Thornton, robbed of both their mother and their innocence, faced years of therapy and soul-searching. Melissa eventually became an advocate for victims of domestic violence, channeling her pain into a mission to help others. Tyler, more withdrawn, struggled with trust issues and the weight of his family's legacy. Richard Thornton, once a pillar of the community, became a shell of his former self. The revelation of his wife's affair and her subsequent murder left him questioning every aspect of his life. He eventually retired early from his banking career and moved to a small town in Montana, seeking solitude and a fresh start away from the painful memories of Maple Grove. The Cartwright family, their lives forever altered by Jason's actions, tried to rebuild in a new city. Daniel threw himself into his work, while Sarah became involved in prison reform initiatives, grappling with her role as the mother of a convicted murderer. They rarely spoke of Jason or the events in Maple Grove, pain still too raw even years later. Jason Cartwright, once the golden boy of Maple Grove, found himself facing the harsh realities of life behind bars. His youthful good looks faded, replaced by a hardened exterior forged in the crucible of the prison system. He maintained his innocence to those who would listen, claiming that Evelyn's death was an accident born out of passion, rather than premeditated murder. But as the years passed, even he began to question the series of choices that had led him to this point. The house at 1542 Sycamore Lane, once the scene of a gruesome crime, stood empty for years, a silent reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. Eventually, it was purchased by a young couple unaware of its history, the real estate agent conveniently omitting the property's dark past. Some neighbors debated whether to tell them, but ultimately decided that the new owners deserved a chance at happiness, untainted by the weight of history. As for Maple Grove itself, community slowly regained its footing, but with a newfound awareness of the fragility of their peaceful existence. The annual block parties and neighborhood cookouts resumed, but there was always an undercurrent of caution, collective holding of breath as if waiting for the next secret to explode into the open. The case of Evelyn Thornton and Jason Cartwright became a case study in criminal justice classes and psychology seminars. Experts debated the roles of age, power dynamics, and societal expectations in the unfolding of the tragedy. Some saw it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of infidelity, while others pointed to deeper issues of loneliness and disconnection in modern suburban life. In the end, the case of the housewife's affair with the neighbor's son that ended in murder became more than just a sensational crime. It was a mirror held up to society, reflecting uncomfortable truths about desire, betrayal, and the human capacity for both love and violence. It served as a reminder that even in the most ordinary of places, extraordinary and terrible things can happen when passion, obsession, and desperation collide. The legacy of Evelyn Thornton and Jason Cartwright would continue to resonate through Maple Grove and beyond. Cautionary tale whispered to future generations. It stood as a stark reminder that beneath the veneer of suburban perfection, the complexity of human emotions and the potential for tragedy always lurk, waiting for the right moment to shatter the illusion of safety and normalcy. As the years passed, Maple Grove would recover, new families would move in, and new stories would unfold. But the echoes of that fateful September night would never truly fade, serving as a constant reminder of the secrets we keep, the choices we make, and the unforeseen consequences that can alter the course of so many lives in the blink of an eye. As the years passed, the impact of the Thornton-Cartwright affair continued to ripple through Maple Grove and beyond. The case became a subject of fascination for true crime enthusiasts and sociologists alike, spawning numerous books, documentaries, and even a controversial Hollywood film. One such book, Suburban Secrets: The Maple Grove Murder by investigative journalist Elena Rodriguez, delved deep into the lives of Evelyn Thornton and Jason Cartwright. Through extensive interviews with friends, family members, and community residents, Rodriguez painted a complex picture: two individuals trapped in a web of societal expectations and personal desires. The book revealed that Evelyn, despite her outward appearance of contentment, had long harbored dreams of a different life. Friends spoke of her passion for art and her regret at giving up a promising career in graphic design to become a full-time mother and housewife. This unfulfilled ambition, Rodriguez argued, made her particularly vulnerable to the attentions of a younger man who seemed to represent the freedom and excitement she craved. Jason, on the other hand, was portrayed as a young man struggling with the weight of expectation. His parents, teachers, and coaches had always seen him as destined for greatness, pressure that left him feeling trapped and searching for ways to assert his independence. The affair with Evelyn, Rodriguez suggested, was as much about rebellion against societal norms as it was about genuine attraction. The book also explored the broader context of Maple Grove itself, examining how the community's emphasis on maintaining a perfect facade may have contributed to tragedy. Interviews with other residents revealed a culture of silence and conformity, where problems were often swept under the rug rather than addressed openly. While some in Maple Grove criticized the book as an invasion of privacy and an attempt to profit from tragedy, others found it a cathartic exploration of the events that had shaken their community. It sparked conversations about mental health, the importance of open communication in families, and the dangers of living life according to others' expectation. 5 years after the murder, Maple Grove faced another challenge when a group of true crime enthusiasts began organizing murder tours of the neighborhood, stopping at key locations related to the Thornton Cartwright case. This macabre tourism deeply disturbed many residents, who felt it disrespected Evelyn's memory and prevented the community from moving on. In response, a group of community leaders, including Melissa Thornton, now a strong advocate for victims' rights, organized a campaign to stop the tours. They worked with local government to pass ordinances restricting such activities and launch public awareness campaigns about the lasting impact of violent crimes on communities. The controversy brought Maple Grove back into the national spotlight, reigniting debates about the ethics of true crime entertainment and the public's fascination with tragic events. It also forced the community to confront the fact that, no matter how much they wished to move on, the Thornton Cartwright case always be a part of their history. As for the key players in the tragedy, their lives continued to evolve in the shadow of that fateful night. Richard Thornton, after years of solitude in Montana, eventually remarried. His new wife, grief counselor he met through a support group, helped him come to terms with his complex emotions surrounding Evelyn's affair and death. While he never fully recovered from the trauma, he found a measure of peace and even began cautiously reconnecting with his children. Melissa Thornton channeled her pain into advocacy work, becoming a respected voice in the field of domestic violence prevention. She often spoke at conferences and to student groups about the importance of recognizing warning signs in relationships and the need for better support systems for those trapped in dangerous situations. Her younger brother, Tyler, struggled more with the legacy of his mother's actions and death. He battled depression and substance abuse issues in his early 20s, but eventually found solace in music, becoming a talented songwriter whose lyrics often touched on themes of loss, betrayal, and redemption. The Cartwright family's attempts to start over in a new city were met with mixed success. Daniel threw himself into his work, achieving professional success, but remaining emotionally distant from his family. Sarah's involvement in prison reform led her to pursue a degree in criminal justice, and she eventually became a counselor working with juvenile offenders. Their efforts to maintain a relationship with Jason were strained and infrequent, pain and shame of his actions creating a nearly insurmountable barrier. Jason Cartwright himself remained a controversial figure. In prison, he initially maintained his innocence, claiming Evelyn's death was an accident. However, as years passed, he began to show signs of remorse, participated in anger management and therapy sessions, and even began writing a memoir about his experiences. The announcement of this memoir sparked outrage among many, including the Thornton family, who saw it as an attempt to profit from Evelyn's death. Legal battles ensued over whether Jason should be allowed to publish his account and potentially earn money from book sales. 10 years after the murder, Maple Grove had outwardly returned to normal. New families had moved in, attracted by the good schools and safe streets, many unaware of the community's dark chapter. However, for longtime residents, the case remained an unspoken presence, a shared history that bound them together in complex ways. The house at 1542 Sycamore Lane, which had stood empty for so long, was eventually purchased by a nonprofit organization. They converted it into a community center focused on relationship education and violence prevention, fitting tribute to Evelyn's memory and a way to create something positive from the tragedy. On the 15th anniversary of Evelyn's death, the community of Maple Grove came together for a memorial service. It was a somber yet healing event, attended by both longtime residents and newcomers. Melissa Thornton gave a moving speech about her mother's life, focusing not on the tragedy of her death, but on the warmth, love, and community spirit she had embodied throughout her life. The service also marked the unveiling of a small memorial garden in the local park. A plaque dedicated to Evelyn stood among carefully tended flowers, serving as a quiet reminder of the past and a symbol of the community's resilience and growth. As the residents of Maple Grove left the service, there was a sense of collective exhale, as if the community was finally allowing itself to fully acknowledge the pain of the past and look towards the future. The Thornton Cartwright case would always be a part of their history, but it no longer defined them. The story of Evelyn Thornton and Jason Cartwright, a tale of passion, betrayal, and tragedy, had become woven into the fabric of Maple Grove. It served as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the unforeseen consequences of our actions. But it also stood as a testament to the strength of community, the power of healing, and the enduring human capacity for growth and forgiveness in the face of unimaginable circumstances. As the sun set on Maple Grove that evening, casting long shadows across manicured lawns and white picket fences, the community stood united in its determination to honor the past while building a better future. The perfect facade of suburban life had been cracked, revealing the complex, flawed, and deeply human reality beneath. And in that revelation, Maple Grove had found not only pain and loss, but also strength, passion, and a deeper understanding of the ties that bind us all.